Welcome back to our study in Philippians. We're on verse 15 of chapter 2 today. And this is actually a continuation of what Paul started in verse 14. It's all one sentence. But those who organized the Bible and broke it up into chapters and verses saw fit to split the verses here. That's why it is the way that it is. But anyway, let's read the whole sentence together so that we have the context of what we'll be discussing today. Do everything without grumbling and arguing, so that you may be blameless and pure, children of God who are faultless in a crooked and perverted generation, among whom you shine like stars in the world. So in verse 15, we are given the reason that we need to be, another reason. Actually, no, not a reason, but a consequence. Before he said do everything without grumbling and arguing, he gave us the reasons for that because of what Jesus has done for us and is continuing to do for us, and because we need to be working out our own salvation with fear and trembling so that we can appear before God without that fear at that point in time. So do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that now we're given the consequence of what happens when we live our life with a happy, positive outlook. We talked yesterday about how our focus is to be on God, and that when our focus is on God and on what He has done for us, we won't have a basis for grumbling or complaining or arguing with God or about God. We will be at peace. God's love will reign in us as we focus on Him in love and gratitude for all that He has done. Then the consequence of learning to live with the mind of Christ and gratitude in our hearts for what He has done for us is so that we will be without blame, will be blameless. God holds us blameless, not because we are blameless, but because He has credited His righteousness to us. Romans 4 verses 20 through 25 talk about how Abraham believed God and obeyed God in offering Isaac as a sacrifice. Now, Abraham was not a perfect man. We don't know much bad about him, but we know that he lied on several occasions and was deceitful and dishonest at times. But because he acted in faith and was obedient to God, God credited His own personal righteousness to Abraham, so that Abraham became righteous. Not based on what he had done, but on the fact that he was obedient and God gave him God's righteousness. And then it goes on to say that same righteousness is credited to us when we live in obedience out of faith. So that's Romans chapter 4 verses 20 through 25 if you want to go back and look at that. So God credits us with His righteousness when we have the mind of Christ and live in humility and obedience, doing the things that God has set out for us to do without grumbling and complaining, because we are appreciative. We're grateful for the things that He has done for us. So we can be blameless and pure. Pure means unmixed with evil, free from guile or deceit, innocent, simple. You know, when we live lives of goodness and righteousness and truth, our lives are much simpler. Think of a criminal who has to constantly be making up lies and hiding and deceiving people and pretending to be something that he's not. He lives a very complicated life. And even us, we're not criminals. But if we are trying to portray ourselves to be something that we're not, or better than what we are, or we're trying to manipulate people to accomplish our purposes and to do the things that we want them to do, if we're living a self-centered life, our life is complicated. It's not easy and it's not happy. But when we have the mind of Christ and live in humility before God and one another, and keep our lives pure from the contaminations of the world and from the temptations that Satan throws at us to be deceitful and to cover up and to wear a mask instead of being honest about who we are. Our lives are simpler when we live the way God has prescribed for us to live. And we will be able to be pure, not contaminated by the things of the world around us. And that means we have to cut off some of those connections to the world around us. We need to be careful what we listen to on the radio, what we watch on TV, who we socialize with, who we spend most of our time with. And make sure that we are with other people who are like-minded, with the mind of Christ, who are trying to live blameless and pure. Now, this part of the sentence where it's talking about that we may be blameless and pure children of God, that's God's perspective of us. That's how God sees us. And how can He see us that way? Well, number one, He credits us with His righteousness when we are obedient based on faith. But not only that, we have the promise of 1 John 1:7 that if we walk in the light as He is in the light, the blood of Christ continually cleanses us from all unrighteousness. So we have the cleansing power of the blood of Jesus that continually is washing away any unrighteousness that inadvertently creeps into our lives, because we're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to sin. But as long as we are trying our best to walk in the light as He is in the light, Jesus has got us covered. And every step that we take in obedient faith, God credits us with His righteousness. Oh, that just gives me the Holy Spirit shivers all over. And for those of you who may not believe in that, that's okay. Just an overwhelming joy and peace knowing that I'm covered. So God, when we have the mind of Christ and we do things without grumbling or complaining, God credits us as being blameless. And He helps us to remain pure. And then He says, children of God who are faultless in a crooked and perverted generation. Now we're shifting over to the mindset of the world. The world's crooked. It's not on the straight and narrow. It's on the broad and crooked path that's leading to destruction. It's not headed straight toward God. They're not on the straight and narrow. They're crooked. God has laid out a path for us to follow, and they've gone off to the left, they've gone off to the right. They wander along here and there and stop and turn around and go backwards and come off on a different path somewhere else. They're all messed up. The world is not a comfortable place to be. The path is not straight. It's not simple. It's not clean. It's not pure. Crooked and perverse. Perverse means turned away from its intended purpose. God created us in His image to be His children, to do good works. And the world has turned away from that, to follow Satan, to fulfill their own lusts, to do whatever they want to do, to call good evil and evil good. And oh man, are we seeing that today. But then they look at Christians, look at us, and we are to appear faultless. They shouldn't be able to accuse us of being double-minded, of lying, of being deceitful. Now that doesn't mean they're never going to accuse us of anything, because the world will twist the truth and accuse us falsely. But we're told, Jesus said in Matthew 5:12, that it's a blessing when we're persecuted for righteousness' sake. For they persecuted the prophets the same way. And we learn from other places in the New Testament that when we are persecuted, it's because God counts us worthy of bearing that persecution in His name and to His glory. So we are to appear faultless in a crooked and perverse generation. We stay on the straight and narrow while they're wandering all over the place. And we live according to the pattern that God set out for us, living the way He intended us to live, while they have perverted everything good and righteous and holy to their own purposes. And as we live on the straight and narrow, and on that faultless path of humble obedience to God, we will shine like stars in the world. And I was so fascinated when I looked at this. To shine means not to just show up. It's more than just seeing something. I'm sitting here looking out the window on the other side of my desk and I see a tree. It's not shining. It's just there. I see it. It gets dark, I don't see it, and then the light comes along and I see it, but it's still not shining. Shining means to be bright, to be evident, to be resplendent. There's a glory about this shining. And when we are walking the way we are to walk, when we are living the way we are to live, we're going to be very evidently noticeable among the people of the world. We're going to be different. And the shining like stars is not talking about these little things that twinkle up in the sky. The idea of stars is literally that which emits light. We are to shine. Now, what kind of shining is that? Am I glowing like a light bulb? Am I sparkling like a star? Am I blindingly bright like the sun? No. How do I shine? I allow the glory of God to flow through me and give light, spiritual light to the world. What is the source of the light that we are to be? It is God. We are to shine like the source of our light. We are to emit light to the world like the source of our light. We are to be the light of God to the world around us. How bright is God to you? How brightly do we allow God to shine through us to the world around us? When we have the mind of Christ and live and walk in humble obedience and in gratitude for all that has been done for us, we will walk the narrow, straight path, pure and blameless before God, faultless in a crooked and perverse world, shining like the Father who has shined His light on us. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that set a challenge for us? To open up and let God live and move in us even more powerfully from day to day, so that His light, His glory shines in us and through us to the world around us, so that people will even do a double take and say, whoa, that person's got to be a Christian. Let's set that as a challenge and an encouragement to us not to give up. Because sometimes this walk is challenging and it is difficult, and sometimes we do deal with persecution and hard times and disappointments and troubles. So let this be an encouragement to us to just keep on being the light of God to the world around us. God bless you. Thank you for joining me today.